The house stood at the edge of Lincolnshire, a Victorian relic wrapped in ivy and memories. Oliver Crane, a Londoner with a passion for restoration, had purchased the house at auction for a song. His plan was to renovate and resell it, turning a profit while indulging in his hobby. What he did not know was that the house came with a history that crept back into his life with black, unblinking eyes. Oliver's first night in the house was filled with the kind of excitement only an old, forgotten place could bring. The smell of aged wood and musty drapery mingled with the cold of the late October evening. He spent hours exploring, cataloging the work that needed to be done. The house, he noted with a craftsman's eye, had good bones but needed a lot of work. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that crept across the overgrown lawn, Oliver settled into his sleeping bag in the drawing room. The fireplace, although unused for decades, was still functional and provided a small comfort against the chill. In the middle of the night, he awoke to a soft tapping at the window. His first thought was of a tree branch brushing against the glass. He ignored it, rolling over in his sleeping bag, trying to recapture his dreams. But the tapping persisted, growing louder and more insistent. Annoyed, he got up, fumbling for the flashlight. The tapping ceased abruptly, replaced by an unsettling silence that seemed to press against his ears. He moved toward the window, pushing aside the heavy drapes. There, standing on the lawn, illuminated by the moonlight, was a child. At first, Oliver thought he was looking at a lost boy, perhaps from a neighboring house. The child wore an old-fashioned outfit, reminiscent of something from a century past. A crisp white shirt and knee-length trousers. His hair was dark, framing a pale face, but it was the eyes that made Oliver's blood run cold. They were completely black, devoid of whites, as if twin voids stared back at him. The child raised a hand, pressing it against the window pane, leaving a faint smear of condensation. Oliver felt a chill race down his spine, but he could not tear his gaze away. The boy's lips moved, forming words that Oliver could not hear through the glass. Instinctively, he knew he should not open the window. Something was terribly wrong. Oliver backed away slowly, his flashlight shaking in his hand. The child continued to stare, his mouth now forming a silent plea. Then, with a suddenness that made Oliver jump, the boy vanished, leaving only the condensation mark as evidence he had been there. The following day, Oliver drove into town and spoke with the local historian, an elderly woman who ran the library. When he described the child, her face paled, and she crossed herself. She explained that many years ago, during the house's construction, a boy had gone missing. His body was never found, and the local legend claimed that his spirit, marked by the blackness of his eyes that reflected the darkness of his fate, haunted the grounds. That evening, as Oliver prepared to leave the house for good, he found a small, old-fashioned shoe in the corner of the room where he had seen the child. It was worn and caked with earth, but unmistakably real. He left it there, along with his dreams of renovation, and drove away without looking back, the memory of those black eyes etched forever in his mind. Years later, the house still stands, unsold and abandoned. Locals whisper about the black-eyed child, and the brave few who have ventured close claim to hear tapping at the windows and see faint figures in the moonlight. But no one stays long enough to find out if the legend is true. Would you stay in that house?